It's an Ask LOJ edition. We'll hit it all. We'll lead it off with why isn't Jeremiah Fears getting more love? Next on Locked On Jazz. Bum 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 bum.
You are Locked On Jazz, your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
How are you? I'm David Locke, radio voice of the Utah Jazz, Jazz NBA insider. This is Locked On Jazz, your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz, giving you insight, expertise, geeky numbers, and hopefully making it way better to be a Jazz fan each and every day. Thank you so much for making Locked On Jazz your first listen of the day. We are free and available on all podcasting apps, as well as on YouTube. So glad to have you with us. To the everydayers out there, you are the best. It's all part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. On today's show, it's an Ask LOJ edition. We are loaded. It is going to be a rapid fire Ask LOJ because there's no way I can get into all the questions. But we're going to kind of finish it off, hopefully, with some offseason thoughts, some Jazz player personnel moves, some contract moves, where the team's going. But we'll start with a bunch of questions about draft picks. And let's start right out of the top. Rank these guys on who you'd take first if you were the Jazz. So this is interesting. I still think my first one in this group is Ace Bailey. My second, it's probably very similar to this order, is Trey Johnson. My third is likely VJ Edgecombe. Fourth, I would take Jeremiah Fears. And fifth, Collin of the players that are represented here. Ace Bailey, Trey Johnson, VJ Edgecombe, Collin, Jeremiah Fears. I'm spacing on how to pronounce it. The Duke 7-footer isn't mentioned here. Maybe should be a little bit. Malawach. I just think you do have Walker, so you'd have to figure out what you're doing with both of them. You probably don't want both of them, but you have to figure out how special you think he is, because I do believe in rim protecting bigs, and if he's that special and you think he can develop any of the skills, then he should probably be in this. But I still think Ace Bailey's upside, though. Trey Johnson's ability to just go get buckets, I'm not entirely sure. From a Jazz standpoint, it's 3. And interesting, I was listening to Locked On NBA Big Board with Rafael Barlow, James Barlow, and Leif Tulane the other day. And one of the things they said that I thought was really interesting is they talked about Ace Bailey's weaknesses, and that if Ace Bailey goes to Philadelphia, he'll fall underneath Paul George, Tyrese Maxey, Joel Embiid, and that some of his shot selection and other issues probably won't be as big a deal. Whereas if he ends in someplace like Utah and he thinks he's the best player on the floor, does he end up overshooting, overplaying, doing some things of that nature? Trey Johnson is the best equipped to be the best player on the floor of any of these kids. I don't know that long-term is the answer necessarily. But so at this moment, if I had to, I would still probably hold Ace Bailey first. I think he's got a chance to really be great. Then Trey Johnson, then VJ Edgecombe, then Jeremiah Fears, and then Collin. Rafael Barlow's NBA big board, his overall big board, are Locked On NBA draft expert, Ace Bailey, then Jeremiah Fears, then Trey Johnson, then VJ Edgecombe, then Malawach. Then he's got the kid from Germany, Noah Asenju, at 8, Derek Queen at 9, and Collin at 10. Honestly, and then he's got Igor Demin at 11 and Maxine Riard at 12, and Kasparis Yakuchonis, I think it is, at 13th. So we'll see. You know, that's his big board. He's been pretty accurate over time. Hey, Locke, is there any trade where the Jazz can, with the 76ers, get the third pick and still keep the fifth? I mean, if another person sends me another Paul George, Lauri Markkanen trade, it's crazy. That somehow got internet thing. That, by the way, can't happen until like August, right? Lauri Markkanen, Lauri Markkanen can be traded. He couldn't be traded till a day after the trade deadline. I don't think it has to be a year from his extension. It was 6 months after his extension. So Lauri could still be moved. Lauri couldn't be traded till a day after the trade deadline. The one that everyone's throwing around is Lauri and 5 for Paul George and 3. Maybe there's something to that. I'm not totally sure I get it. You'd have to know that Paul George is really broken if you're Philadelphia, and the Jazz would have to understand that as well and have somebody at 3 they really, really wanted. Could you see making a trade with Houston's 10th pick And what would it get to take it? I feel like a prospect falls to 10th, Houston would listen. I actually think this might be the most unmovable pick in the draft. Here's my thought on this. Houston's good now. Other than maybe by some fluke of nature that one of their other picks comes through. This is probably the last chance. I'd have to look at Houston's draft capital. And they have some great ones, by the way. Houston might have the best draft capital of anyone. Oklahoma City, not like they need it. Their draft capital is getting a little less good over time. Same way ours has gotten a little less good over time as it looks like both Minnesota and Minnesota and Cleveland are going to be good for a while. Our best picks and Lakers are going to be, good with Luka. So our actual best pick comes out to probably be the Phoenix pick we acquired last year. That's if you look at it, the Houston has some really good draft assets the rest of the way. In 2026, they don't, but they have a Brooklyn pick swap in 2027. I think it is on one of the trades, and they have Phoenix's first round pick in 2027. However, and they have Dallas's 2029 and Phoenix's 2029 there. The thing I would say on this, and this is why I think this is probably one of the most unmovable picks, is this is probably, other than that Phoenix, Houston's last chance to get a top 10 pick while building this roster. And so I don't think there's much of any circumstance where Houston would move this pick. I could see a scenario where the Pelicans or Brooklyn or Toronto or, give them future assets and they punt it down the road a little bit. They would be willing to move. That's the one I don't think that you could move. I keep seeing proposals to trade Lauri for the 2 or 4 pick. It's even possible. I thought the Jazz did not trade him until after the draft. The Jazz might not be able to trade him until after the draft, but there are plenty of times where deals on, like, for example, the Jazz can't trade John Collins until after the draft either because he's got to opt in, but you could get some agreement that he's going to opt in and then the trade gets executed after that date. This is why there's that whole moratorium that goes on and you get this weird thing where, like, particularly me, I'll be in a circumstance where if we make a trade, I might not be able to talk about it as a team employee because we're waiting for the new collective bargaining agreement the next year to roll over on July 7th or 8th coming up the draft. And so you sit around for 12 days. It's also why sometimes these guys can't play in summer leagues. So he can be moved, but there is a chance that you'd have to wait till after the new collective bargaining agreement to get it done. You don't seem to talk about Jeremiah Fears as much as the others. Any reason? No, I mean, I think that's true, actually. Probably a mistake. Probably should watch him more. My initial reaction was I liked Trey Johnson, VJ Edgecombe more. I mean, that's all it was, right? When I watched my first run through of Watch, I liked Ace Bailey, Trey Johnson, and VJ Edgecombe more. And so you start doing the math, and then I didn't have Jeremiah Fears. He should be in this conversation. And I've said that the whole time. If you've listened over the last weeks, I don't have him there as high, but certainly Jeremiah Fears should be in the conversation amongst players. Let's go to our Locked On Sooners host about Jeremiah Fears.
Jeremiah Fears will be a star in the NBA. This is John Williams of Locked On Sooners. Fears came to Norman as a reclassified true freshman, playing in the toughest basketball conference in the nation during what should have been his senior season of high school. Fears helped lead the Sooners to their first NCAA tournament berth since 2020-2021, while averaging 17.1 points per game, 4.1 assists, and 1.6 steals to lead the Oklahoma Sooners. A dynamic point guard who thrives with the ball in his hands, Jeremiah Fears is quick off the dribble and possesses elite speed. He's excellent getting into the paint and fantastic at finishing around the rim. He's a day one starter who's going to have a long career in the NBA, leading his franchise to a number of playoff berths, and he's going to make that team and that fan base very, very happy. Jeremiah Fears is set to be a star in the NBA.
So that's more optimistic than, honestly, the notes I had when I watched him. I thought he was good. I thought he had complete control when he was on the court. I'm trying to find my notes right now if you can see me head down. I thought he had a tight handle, was in total control, questioned whether he could shoot. I thought he was a little small. I thought he was a little loose. And I thought he over-dribbled. All those things probably can get fixed. I thought a few other notes from another time I watched him. I thought he had good recognition. He's 6'2" and a half with a 6'5" wingspan. So he's with a 42-inch vertical jump. So massive vertical jump. Same note I had, complete control of the game, quick coast to coast. Really liked to play where he fought defensively in the post, understood where the double team was coming, slid to the baseline to allow the double team to have its impact, but not get beat that way. Thought he held his space for a little guy, made some big time shots. Had a moment where he drove the lane and packed it coming down the middle, which I was going to show you, but YouTube doesn't like it when I do that. Thought he had a few wonky passes, was a little high in the turnovers, always dribbles, but has a tight handle. So I think I think this is legit. Is there a possibility Jeremiah Fears has the highest upside compared to Trey and VJ? Yes. If Jeremiah Fears becomes a bona fide starting point guard, who's one of the top 10 point guards in the NBA, then that's a bigger upside than Trey Johnson or VJ. Like his handle and ability to control a game, we're seeing it out of Brunson, we're seeing out of Tyrese Halliburton, we're seeing it out of Shea. Absolutely. He could have a bigger upside. Why would the Jazz take Jeremiah Fears over Trey or VJ Edgecombe? Because they really believe he's the point guard. If they believe that Jeremiah, we talked about this when we didn't get the 1 or 2 pick. They could believe that Jeremiah Fears, at 18 years old, reclassified, as John Williams said, is the guiding light, that he becomes the piece you're actually building on, that he's that special as a point guard in control, that he becomes the guy that you're putting down. I don't know that I think Trey Johnson or VJ Edgecombe are your guiding light as a franchise. I think you're trying to add the guiding light in future pieces. If you believe Jeremiah Fears is the primary ball handler and that, like, bingo, then you go draft him with the 5th pick, and then you're moving forward with him. You can't believe that yet on Isaiah Collier because he just can't shoot well enough. And so there's a chance you think it's Jeremiah Fears. Some numbers concerns on Trey Johnson, some thoughts on VJ Edgecombe, some watch requests, and then we move into Jazz roster building next on Locked On Jazz on the Ask LOJ edition. You guys are amazing. Pumping it with questions today on Locked On Jazz. I spent yesterday down at Murdoch Hyundai in Linden with Jake Banks and then saw Blake for a while, talked his ear off for like an hour. I got to tell you how comfortable I am to send you down there. First of all, I just got a brand new Ioniq 6 for my dad. It was actually my dad's 86th birthday yesterday. So congratulations. Happy birthday to Dad. And then he got a brand new car at his 86th birthday. So pretty cool. I went down, got it for him. Sweet. Drove great coming back up Provo Canyon. Probably the last time I'll drive it until I drive it back to California for him. But I was, it's in the garage, but I might have to drive it. It's pretty sweet looking. He got a blue, sweet. The Ioniq 6 is electric, looks sporty, awesome, great self-driving, every bell and whistle and feature. Doors don't open if a car's coming by for safety reasons for the kids in the back. It's the signature of Hyundai with all of those features. And the customer service, amazing from Jake Banks down at Hyundai in Linden. So guess what? I feel so comfortable sending you down there. If you're looking for a car right now and you're in the market, put Hyundai on, give me an email at DLOCK09. Let me set you up with the VIP experience you deserve as a Locked On everydayer. You walk in, your VIP, your appearance will be your meeting will be set up beforehand. You don't have to go through the front door and wonder like which guy is coming or which woman's coming to go be, like the vulture coming to throw. I got to put that. Nope. We're gonna have it all pre-set up. Everything you need, what cars you want to look at, they'll all be pre-established for you. You'll get the VIP experience from Locked On and Murdoch. So email me at dlock09@gmail.com if you're looking for a car this weekend over at 4646 South State Street in Linden or in Logan in Linden or in Logan. Email me at dlock09@gmail.com and I'll set you up with your VIP meeting for Murdoch Hyundai. Today's show is also brought to you by DoorDash. It's an opportunity to jump on, be a Dash Pass member, and get a free 3-piece crispy tender combo from Wingstop anytime a player drops 50 in the NBA playoffs. That's right. They swoosh, you score. with DoorDash. 50 points in the NBA playoffs. If someone does it in game 6 or game 7, it's going to be epic. And if they do it in the NBA finals, it's going to be historic. It's only happened 33 times in the history of the NBA playoffs. They swoosh, you score any player time, drops 30. Dash Pass members score a 3-piece chicken tenders combo from Wingstop the very next day. Just place an order of $20 more. Use Wingstop 50 at checkout, and the combo is yours. Crispy, delicious, and totally free. Offer valid noon to midnight the day after the game. Terms do apply. So here's the play. Sign up for Dash Pass to unlock this and more exclusive deals all season long. When any player scores 50 in a playoff game, Dash Pass members can grab a free 3-piece crispy tender combo from Wingstop the next day. That's with $20 order and a code Wingstop50. That's Dash Pass. Your door to more savings, more flavor, and more ways to win. Terms do apply. Thanks so much for making Locked On Jazz your first listen of the day. You're awesome. Super appreciate it. Monday through Thursday, I'm back with you next week. I've got some things I'm going to try to get done this weekend to really give some awesome shows next week. And then Leaf takes over on Friday for quite some time, until the 22nd or 3rd. And then I'll be back for draft week. Let me preface this by saying I like Johnson as well. How do you reconcile your positivity with the prospect with Hollinger and Pelton types being so low on him because of his analytical profile? It concerns me. Kevin was low on Cody last year. He was high on Walker. I haven't looked at Hollinger's stuff yet. I will. It concerns me. It's part of the puzzle. This is always what I've said about analytics. Like, analytics has to be a part of your puzzle. It isn't your entire puzzle, but it's a part of your puzzle. If Kevin Pelton's analytics are really high on a kid like the San Diego State kid, I don't know if he stayed in the draft, or Duke has a backup where his numbers peaked, I'm certainly taking an extra look at him. And if Kevin Pelton's numbers are bad, I'm certainly getting a little concerned about it. So, yeah, I think it really matters. Have you watched VJ Edgecombe for the Olympic qualifiers last year for Bahamas, where he was the best player, even with NBA players on the roster? If so, does that give you any more optimism? Well, I'm pretty optimistic about him. I have not watched this. I'll see if I can find it. The last time I watched him, I got concerned because he was so quiet for such a long part of the game. And then for about a 5-minute stretch against Arizona, he was just outstanding. So it's in there. And, you just have to figure out in the NBA game, is it going to be there even more? Have you watched Con Knippel's tape from the games of the AC tournament where Cooper was hurt? And if so, did it change your opinion? I have not. I will do so this weekend for you. Rasheer Fleming, Taylor Hendricks clone, 6'9", 7'6" spread, bigger version of Hendricks, guards 1 through 5, off ball, shot blocker. With all those picks, take a chance on a huge upside. I don't think we get to him unless we go get him. Rafael Barlow's got him 15th on his board. So I don't think we see him at 21. I don't think we take a shot at him at 5. That would be a big move. All right, let's move the focus to roster building. As the NBA changes, is Lauri's big contract a problem? Is it now? I'm supposed to say now, unmovable. It's a good question. So Lauri's contract is 46, 46, 49, and 53. Cap should go up a little bit. But he's basically, the projection on the cap, he's 30% of the cap next year. It goes down to 26% of the cap in the next 2 years. What Indiana, New York, and Minnesota did is their top 2 players came out to be about 60% of their cap. And that's the way to look at it, is what percentage of the cap are your top players. Minnesota's was 60, Indiana's was 60, New York's was 60, I think. They're all about 85 million. And Brunson's the key to the whole thing, because Brunson's in at 24 million on their third highest paid player. So if Lauri is your second best player and he's 30% of your cap and then slides down a little bit, it's fine. But if Lauri's going to be your third best player on a championship team, is probably what he is, then that contract could get tough to move. The number one thing that seems to have happened in the NBA right now is that depth is more important than ever before. That the league has created depth matters. The top 2 or 3 guys within just, it's not that model did not work. Those teams that had more play, Milwaukee had 70% of their salary cap in their top 2 players. That didn't work. Phoenix had 72% of their contracts in their top 2 and had nearly 100%. Wow, how's that possible? There's something wrong here because they're over the cap, right? That's how. So their 3 top players were 100 and whatever percent of the cap. The Lakers will be interesting. They're at 65%, probably going to be able to get around it. The Warriors, I think, are on the wrong side of this equation. They have 72% of their cap next year in Steph Curry and Jimmy Butler now. So that's the biggest change. So yeah, Lauri's contract may be more difficult to move. How should our pick going to the Thunder be in consideration? To me, the only path forward next year is being bad again. I think that's probably true. I think that pick should be in massive consideration. First time we did this, we talked about it not being in very big consideration early on, like 2 years ago. Now the issue is we either get a top 8 pick and the Thunder get a second round pick, or the Thunder get the pick. But the contrast now, the first time when Danny Ainge and Justin Zanuck and everybody said, well, we don't really care, the issue is that you were going to be encumbered the next 2 years on how you built your roster. And really, you were going to get to this point where now you really are almost forced to maintain that pick. And you probably wanted to avoid this feeling. But now that we're here, certainly if we keep the pick this year, it becomes a second round pick to Oklahoma City. And therefore, I would say, it should be top of mind that if we're not going to be top 10 in the NBA, we should certainly be bottom 5. If you were to bet your house on who the bottom 3 teams in the league are next year, who would you pick and why? Oh, that's an interesting flip of the coin. So in the Western Conference, if New Orleans trades Zion, if in fact that's what they end up doing, then the Jazz in New Orleans will be in full rebuild. I don't know what Sacramento's doing. Sacramento feels like they're caught in the middle. In the East, Brooklyn and Washington, I think, will still be in full rebuild. Toronto's kind of caught in the middle. I don't know where Chicago's going right now. They seems like they probably have a little too much talent. They've never been willing to do that before. And again, there could be just wacky, incredible amount of trades. But if I had to guess, and I don't think Charlotte has the appetite to do this intentionally again. So if I had to make a guess, the 5 worst teams in the NBA next year would be Utah, New Orleans, Washington, Brooklyn, and then Charlotte, only just because they're not good. Oh, I guess I got to ask 3. So my 3 would be Utah, Washington, and Brooklyn. Possibly have a sign and trade for Kuminga, and whether it has to include Lauri in the deal. This would really be making Golden State top heavy in a way that I don't know that they're willing to do it. You would have to probably take Moses Moody at like his $12 million, Buddy Hield at his 9, and then Kuminga signs for like 25 or 30. And you have to decide you want to do that for Kuminga. And they don't have Hield, they don't have Moody. They have their top 3 players are now making $140 million. I think that I was 100% convinced that Lauri would end up on the Warriors this year after not getting the deal done last year, this offseason. I was 100% convinced when the Jimmy Butler trade happened that Lauri would be the next piece when they gave Butler the extension. As I look at it today, I'm no longer convinced of that. Do the Jazz extend Walker Kessler, and what is that market? Next on Locked on Jazz. Walker Kessler is extension eligible here shortly. Do the Jazz extend Walker Kessler? So this actually should be a fairly easy negotiation. It won't be, but it should be. Because the market's pretty well set for big men that protect the rim, set picks, roll to the basket, and defend. So the highest paid is Rudy, but he's on a different level. He's defense player of the year. So the two highest paid are Nick Claxton at 23 and Clint Capella at 22 and Jakob Poeltl at 19. Jared Allen's at 20. So, sorry, I did that quite. I put Poeltl in the wrong order. So here's the order of big guys that kind of fit to me in the Walker Kessler mold. Nick Claxton's at 23 and decreasing. Capella's at 22 and getting old. Jared Allen's at 20. Jakob Poeltl's at 19. Zubac's at 18. Robert Williams is at 13. And Mitchell Robinson is at 12. I'm sure Walker thinks he's worth a lot more than all of those, but it's not what the market yields for a center that does the things Walker does. Like, unless I'm missing someone. So Zubac's way better than Walker. Zubac's really, really good. Close to all NBA last year at 18. Jared Allen's better than Walker right now. I think that's who Walker needs to become at 20. Nick Claxton and Walker, they've had actually Nick Claxton got the best of Walker like 2 years ago and like back and forth. So the range, to me, just this should get done easily. But I got a sneaking suspicion that it's not going to. I mean, if I'm the Jazz, I'm walking in and I'm looking at him and I'm like, okay, Mitchell Robinson's at 12, Robert Williams is at 13, Jared Allen's at 20. Like, where do you want to fit in there? And I kind of have a feeling that Walker's crew is going to come and be like, we want 25. And then the Jazz are like, okay, no, we're not doing that. So that's my concern. But I think the market, unless I'm forgetting, and Walker's camp would quickly tell me if I have, unless I've forgotten something, I think that is that market is really, really well set. What kind of return could the Jazz get for Sexton if they chose to trade him? So I don't know, but let me just say this. If we had been considering all the other moves we've made, if we could have gotten a first-round draft pick for Collin Sexton in the last 2 trade windows or 3 trade windows, I would have thought we would have done it, right? It seems logical that we would have done that if we had that opportunity. So my comment is, individually, I don't think he's yielding a first-round pick. Would Orlando do a Collin Sexton in 21 for Cole Anthony in 16? They have to believe Collin Sexton's better than Cole Anthony. And then we move up 5 spots in the draft. Maybe. We talked about that in the Locked On NBA mock draft, actually. In fact, I almost tried to include John Collins in the Zion Williamson deal, which would have been illegal, so that I can still do that one with Orlando. Now, 3 years into the blockbuster Gobert trade and subsequent Randall Cat swap, have the Wolves hit their ceiling? Thanks for your work every day. If I'm the Wolves were Shai Gilgeous-Alexander sprained ankle away from going to the NBA Finals. Like, I'm not rude. I mean, they have some money problems. Naz Reid's a free agent, wants to get paid. Nickeil Alexander-Walker's a free agent, wants to get paid. Julius Randle wants to get paid. Like, they've got some roster issues. Mike Conley's getting old. So they may have hit their ceiling, but I'm not like, I wouldn't tear it up, break it up, do anything of that nature. I mean, I think they're in a great spot. I mean, I think this is going to turn out to be the ultimate win-win trade. I mean, the Jazz have got to win on this trade at some point, actually. We have not done so yet. Right now, that trade has yielded Keyonte George and Walker Kessler. And the Mike Conley and some of those pieces over time may turn out to yield whatever that Laker pick turns out to be is partially a part of that. Minnesota, I feel like, has gotten their win on that trade. They've gone to 2 Western Conference Finals in a row. They are completely one of the best franchises in the league. I mean, the Jazz moved Malik Beasley and Jared Vanderbilt's part of it. As of right now, what the Jazz have for that trade is Walker Kessler and Keyonte George, which is fine. We have the 2025 first-round pick. I doubt our pick swap in 2026 comes. We have the 2027 first-round pick, and we have the 2029 first-round pick that does have some protections on it. So it's going to be over time whether we can hit our version of Jalen Williams on the 2025, 2027, or 2029 pick. Of right now, it's a win for Minnesota. I think it's going to turn out to be a win-win, particularly if, Walker can be a long-term piece and Keyonte, you got 2 rotation pieces. I've always said, I think we traded Rudy for 3 rotation pieces. That's in all likelihood, because the minute Rudy's on your team, you win a lot of games. So we weren't picking top 10 on those picks unless something happens by 2029. That's the high upside for us. But otherwise, it was 4 first-round picks that were going to be middle of the pack. So you get 2 rotation players, hoping to get 3, and then that's what you traded Rudy for, was 3 rotation players. And then you're hoping that 2029 falls outside of the top 4. When people say this is going to be the craziest offseason, what do they mean? I just think the game changed this year under the new collective bargaining agreement. And so everyone's going to try to rebuild their roster. Everyone's restructuring everything. Now, when everyone's trying to do the same thing, I don't know that it happens. So I'm a little, and there's going to be no free agency. So it's all got to be trade. So 2 partners have to be willing to do everything. Now, you just may have 30 willing partners. Will the current CBA with so many teams strapped for cash, do you think free agency will bounce back in a few years because teams will be stuck with bad contracts and unable to re-sign their stars? I don't think so. But it's an interesting concept that the trading gets too difficult. Someone like Minnesota has 3 free agents. They can't sign them, and you just know you can go get them. Which early exit playoff team do you think is most likely to blow it up this offseason? Maybe none. So the easy answer was Milwaukee, right? But if you're looking at the Eastern Conference and you're Milwaukee with Jason Tatum out for the year, Cleveland, who knows? Like, if I'm Milwaukee, I'm taking another shot at this. I don't have Dame, but I'm not sure Giannis as the point guard wasn't a great discovery. I'm rebuilding my franchise with Giannis as my point guard. Atlanta, I don't know what they're doing. They have a new free agent. They have a new front office. They didn't make the playoffs. I don't know. Miami, I don't know what they're doing. So those would be 2 that you look at. But otherwise, like, I don't think the Clippers are going to, Minnesota or Denver is going to like blow. I don't think there's going to be a single playoff team that blows it up. Are you opposed to blowing up the team even more, trading vets? I keep hearing that there's going to be a lot of movement this offseason. Should the Jazz prioritize cap space to help us? I am not against that at all. I am not against that at all. I think I'm not against that at all. And last thing, I will take an opinion on a trade. Lauri Markkanen, the 2025, our 2 first picks, 5 and 21, to San Antonio for Harrison Barnes, just contract. Keldon Johnson, honestly, kind of just contract. I'm not convinced. Blake, why? So just contract. So we're basically trading Lauri to move up from 5 to 2 and move up from 21 to 14. Can Lauri move us that many spots in the draft? That's a 10-spot jump on both picks. It's a really interesting concept. That's why I knew what it was. I think this is super interesting. I don't think anything of Barnes, Johnson, or Wesley for our future. Like, that doesn't move me. And the Spurs would have to decide that because they have De'Aaron Fox, they don't want Dylan Harper. And they need shooting to go with Victor Wembanyama. And they'd have to decide that they believe Lauri's contract works with their other contract patterns so that they're not in trouble money-wise on Victor. Let me look at that for a second. Victor gets paid. They'd have one of 27, 28, and 28, 29 would be tough on them. But Fox will be a free agent by then. Fox is a free agent at the end of next year, by the way, which makes the Dylan Harper pick really interesting because you may decide that Dylan Harper is your future, and they gave up so little for him if he's really that good. It's interesting. San Antonio might say no to this. Jazz should probably say yes. It's really good. Well thought out. Jazz should probably say yes. Depending what, self-evaluate 14th pick. But that jump from 21 to 14 is big. Still 50-50 whether they make it. Well done. Great job on Ask LOJ today. Thanks so much for tuning in. This has been Locked On Jazz, your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz. Thanks so much for tuning in. We now send you the first 24/7 national NBA channel. You can follow me on socials at DLock09. 5-star reviews are appreciated. Check out NBA Big Board with Rafael Barlow.